It's time for another reality check. And counting down. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Is everybody ready? Put on your tinfoil hats, press the like and subscribe buttons, tune in, and let's go! What's going on, guys? Reality Check, Truth Unveiled, coming at you with another one. And today we're digging back into the Bricks and Minifigs saga with Reckless Ben and Brian Menzel. And I'm sure by now with how many views are we looking at here? We're looking at oh geez. How many views are they at now? 6,121,579 as of the day of this recording for CoffeeZilla. I'm sure with this many views, most of you have actually seen or watched the CoffeeZilla video report that he done digging into this Bricks and Figs saga with Reckless Ben. And man, of course, CoffeeZilla in natural form did a remarkable report on this, and he actually I believe he released well, no, maybe not, but he done a remarkable report on this. It was just it's wild, man. The things that he uncovered. But what I want to do is I want to go over his video that he done here. And, I'll see if we can kind of skim through the video maybe, because his video is already like almost an hour long by itself. And then when you add my commentary into it, I mean, we're getting into we could be looking at a 2-hour video right here on mine. And so I'm going to do my best to kind of skim through rather than playing the entire video, because I'm sure most of you have went over this. But there's some things I want to go over, and we're going to take what CoffeeZilla unsealed here, and let's see if we can do our own research while we're on here. We're going to check out some stuff. So let's get into this, guys. Let's check it out, because this is going to be a long one.
Okay, before we can find these missing Legos, let's give some background. A massive Star Wars collection was put on consignment at a Lego store called Bricks and Minifigs in Salem, Oregon.
Yep.
Consignment just means the owner, Brian Mansell, gave it to a store to sell, and he was supposed to get a cut when it sold. The entire time, he maintained ownership of the collection, and a social media post estimated it to be worth about $200,000. But then, on November 14th, 2024, everything went wrong. This was the night that Crystal and Ben Gorman, the prior franchise owners of the Salem store, got kicked out by this guy.
Oh,
that is Brandon Best. He and his partner, Josh Johnson, ran a sister store in Eugene, Oregon. And Brandon...
Man, those two guys there, I've seen and heard of some scumbags in my days, but my gosh, are these people, these are some of the biggest scumbags that I have ever seen in my life. I mean, I don't think I've not ever personally witnessed such absolute corruption anywhere. I mean, I think I think the mob had more honor than these gutless pieces of trash. I mean, and I'm talking about the Italian mob, or and so forth. Al Pacino, and I mean, I'd like to say that Al Pacino and his crew, had more freaking honor, and more honor than these pieces of absolute garbage. I mean, these guys have no honor. They have no dignity. No, they just, it's unreal what this scam that they've been pulling off, and and how they've taken all of their own criminalities and reflected it back onto Brian Menzel and Reckless Ben. I mean, it's insane how what it reminds me of is, it reminds me of the far left Democratic Party, the extreme leftists, how they're constantly accusing President Trump of stuff. They're constantly, oh, Trump is a racist, when in fact they're the ones who actually are being racist. Or Trump is a fascist, when in fact they are the ones actually being fascist. Trump wants to be a dictator, when in fact they are the ones trying to be dictators, right? Everything that they accuse President Trump of is what they themselves are actually guilty of. And that's what this reminds me of here, with this whole Bricks and Minifigs case, and Reckless Ben. It's like they are using the same exact strategy as the far left. I mean, the far left, they sent SWAT teams into President Trump's house to SWAT his house, to seize documents that he legally had, that he obtained legally, accusing President Trump of stealing those documents. Yet while President Trump was actually president, meanwhile Joseph R. Biden actually legitimately did steal documents. Right? Because he took classified documents he stole classified documents, boxes and boxes of them, from the White House, right? While he was only the vice president, which he had no legal rights to do. He had he was not legally allowed to take those classified documents away from the White House. Only the president has the ability, the rights to do that, right? And then not only that, but Biden, he had the documents spread all over there were documents found in a freaking university. And then he had documents laying around in his garage. But yet they send a SWAT team in to SWAT President Trump for classified documents, for taking classified documents out of the White House that President Trump actually had a legal, legitimate right to, because he was the actual president, right? And this is the kind of stuff this is exactly the same tactics, the same corrupt, evil tactics that Brandon Biggs and Joshua Johnson and Amnon and Matt and all of these the owners and these tops at Bricks and Minifigs, it's all the same exact tactics. They're using the same tactics that the far left used against President Trump. They are using these against Reckless Ben and Brian Menzel. So I mean, just line it up and look at how corrupt this is, man. It's the exact same tactics. Different situations, of course, but exact same tactics. Let's go.
Drove up that night to kick the Gormans out. Brandon and Josh would be taking over the franchise in Salem. And this is the exact moment the Legos go missing. As that store is getting handed over, the question is Brian's collection in it? Here's what the official Bricks and Minifigs press release reads. Quote, after taking over the store, we discovered a small number of sets valued between $2,000 to $5,000 that could be possibly related to Mr. Mansell's collection. But there's a problem here. There should be over 10 times that amount in this store, given their internal records and what we know the estimated value of this collection was. So if corporate's saying there was only $2,000 to $5,000 in the store, something happened to these Legos. But what?
Right.
In order to solve this case, let's think about the suspects. First, who was there that night of the handover? It's only 3 people. Crystal and Ben Gorman, the former franchise owners, and Brandon Best, one of the new owners. These are our 3 biggest suspects, but they aren't the only ones. I want to address a few other suspects at the very start here. First of all, maybe this is just all the result of, plain old thieves breaking in. What about that possibility?
Hi, I am Chris. I was the previous franchise owner who signed the collection agreement with Brian Mansell.
And I'm Benjamin Gorman. I am the silent partner who's really bad at being silent.
We did have a couple of break-ins at the store. None of Brian's collections were in the police report or stolen during those.
Okay, so the Gormans say...
Now, I do want to... I want to... Let's be fair here. I do want to point something out that I thought about a few days ago. That I haven't... obviously gotten around to placing in any of my videos. But I want to point out that it is interesting, and let me say off the top of my head, I am not in any way, shape, form, or fashion accusing Crystal and her husband of stealing the Legos or anything of that sort, because I do not believe they did. Okay, let me make that perfectly clear. I want to make that as clear as glass. I do not believe that they are guilty. However, coming in from a non-biased perspective, okay, coming in from a non-biased perspective, seeing how big of a scandal this truly is, one could sit back and wonder. One could sit back and wonder, is it possible that... Okay, first let's backtrack. If you've seen all of the videos with Reckless Ben, and his first and then his second video, his second upload and so forth. Okay? And if you haven't, go back and watch them, but I'm sure everybody by now has seen them, right? So if you've seen his videos, if you go back, you'll remember things that Crystal said. Crystal actually did say that her husband had a job out of the country, and she said that she contacted the corporate to inform them that she would be putting the store up for sale. Right? Now, all of a sudden, corporate comes down, or at least they send Brendan Best down to that store to apparently or allegedly to basically take the store back, right? To pretty much steal the store back from Crystal. So, and I say steal because as far as we know, they just come back and took over the store and forced Crystal and her husband out. And of course, we know that there was actual camera footage proving this. We saw that in Reckless Ben's video. So we know that there was camera footage actually proving that Brendan Best told them that they were taking over the store. But here's where my dilemma comes in, okay? From a legal or lawful perspective. Now, nothing obviously Bricks and Minifigs is doing is truly lawful. They are abusing the law in order to steal and rob from people. That's evident. That's a given. But if I sit back from a non-biased perspective, okay, I have to sit here and wonder, in question, is it possible that they could have offered Crystal and her husband X amount of money for the store, and that they would just walk away from it? That they would send someone down to the store who would take over that store. They could take the money and go, right? And this whole thing could be a huge scheme between Bricks and Minifigs corporate and Crystal and her husband, right? Is that possible? I think there's a possibility out there. Now, if that were the case, then you'd have to look at the money trail, and you'd have to say, well, wait a minute. If Crystal got paid for the store, if they paid her and her husband a significant amount of money for the store, then where's the money trail to that? I don't know if anybody's really dug into that portion of any investigation or not. So, but that's just something that entered into my mind, is what if Crystal and her husband are all acting? What if their whole ordeal here is they're just putting on an act, and in reality they basically, it's like hush money. They basically were just given a large sum of cash to say, get out of here. Since you're already going to sell the store anyway, take this money, leave all the inventory behind. We'll handle the rest, right? And so they take the money and they take off and leave the country, right? And thus, from that point forward, Brandon Best and Joshua Johnson take over and take all the inventory, including Brian Manzel's collection, or his father's collection. And Crystal and her husband are having to play, like, say, hey, we don't know anything. They just came down and took the store. They kicked us out. You guys get what I'm saying? Now, I'm only speculating the possibilities here. Okay, I'm not saying that this is what went down, because as of this point, I do not believe Crystal and her husband are guilty of any wrongdoing. But I am speculating the possibilities here, especially as big as this thing has gotten, and it has twisted in so many. It's turned into such a web of deception, such a web of deceit, that I can't count out. You can't count out any possibilities. I mean, anything at this point is possible. I mean, the only thing that I can't bring myself, and maybe there is a slight bias on this one, but the only thing I cannot bring myself to do is to say that Reckless Ben stole the Legos. I mean, come on, get out of here, dude. The logic of that is just unfathomable. I can't even imagine that. So, but anyway, just wanted to throw this out there.
Emphatically, it wasn't thieves, but if that's the case, what about the guy who was arrested? I mentioned at the beginning of this video, Reckless Ben. This is the YouTuber who started it all with a documentary. I tracked down the thief who stole $200,000 of Lego. Maybe it's the perfect crime. Make a video tracking yourself. Now, for our theory, it's worth noting Ben is currently facing a RICO lawsuit by Bricks and Minifigs. He was even targeted with a search warrant for stolen Legos.
Okay, so he's facing a RICO charge. Now, I pulled this up earlier, and this is what I really was looking forward to getting into with you guys. I pulled this up. I pre-pulled up the from the Department of Justice archives. Okay, the archives. U.S. Department of Justice. All right. Now, what is RICO? Let's read over RICO, and let's find out if Reckless Ben fits any of the criteria to what an actual RICO charge is. because that's what I've been pondering. I was like, how can they charge him on on any RICO charges? I can't see how he would follow or fall under under a RICO charge case. I mean, it seems to me like that would be absolutely tossed out in court, hands down. Because, I mean, come on, okay. But let's read this. CRM 1-499-109 RICO charges from the Department of Justice, from the DOJ. Okay, U.S. Department of Justice. So I'm showing you guys that this is the legitimate Department of Justice here. According to the Department of Justice, what RICO, it is unlawful. Let's look at this. It is unlawful for anyone employed by or associated with any enterprise. Let's stop there. Enterprise. Does Reckless Ben have an enterprise? As far as I can tell, he does not. He clearly does not. Heck, the man couldn't even afford a lawyer right now. I mean, he had to get. There had to be a fundraiser for him, just for him to be able to afford a lawyer. So to claim that he was involved with an enterprise sounds absolutely asinine. Okay? It is unlawful for anyone employed or associated with any enterprise engaged in or the activity of which affect interstate or foreign commerce to conduct or participate directly or indirectly in the conduct of such enterprises' affairs through a pattern of racketeering activity on collection of unlawful debt. Okay? Let's read that again to make sure we're getting this correctly. I want to make sure I'm understanding this correctly, okay, guys? I mean, you guys may pick up on it. Maybe you understand the language of law better than I do. I'm sure most of you probably do. But let's do this. It is unlawful for anyone employed by or associated with any enterprise. I don't think Reckless Ben's part of any enterprise, so to me, that right there would disqualify him right off the jump. But let's keep going. Engaged in or the activities of which affect interstate or foreign commerce. Has his activities affected interstate or foreign commerce? I mean, maybe they have affected Bricks and Minifigs because he exposed them, but I don't see how that can apply to RICO. To conduct or participate directly or indirectly in the conduct of such enterprises' affairs. Again, where's the enterprise? I mean, if they're trying to accuse Reckless Ben of RICO, where's the enterprise that Reckless Ben is working for or affiliated with or owns? Where's this enterprise? Where's this mystery enterprise that he's part of? I'd sure like to know that. Affairs through a pattern of racketeering activity or collection of unlawful debt. In the conduct of such enterprises' affairs through a pattern of racketeering activity or collection of unlawful debt. Now, what is racketeering? Let's look this up. The definition of racketeering. Well, that didn't get us anywhere, did it? That didn't go anywhere. Okay, let's check this out. What does racketeering really mean? Okay, laws and laws. Racketeering isn't a crime that most people hear much about outside of crime dramas. What does racketeering mean? Let's skip all that and go down here. In its simplest form, racketeering refers to unauthorized or illegal business activity. Again, Where is reckless Ben's unlawful or illegal business activity? Where? He doesn't own an enterprise as far as I can tell, as far as any of us know, right? If he does, correct me. I mean, comment in the comment section. If Reckless Ben has an enterprise or is involved with an enterprise or working with an enterprise, please tell me in the comment section. Let me know. Correct me here. I'd sure like to know this, but I haven't seen or heard of any. Okay? In its simplest form, racketeering refers to unauthorized or illegal business activity often run by crime groups or syndicates. Is this not exactly what Bricks and Minifigs is doing? See, this is what I mean by how they're reflecting back on, they're taking their crimes and reflecting it back onto the ones who are exposing their crimes. You see this? Because Bricks and Minifigs is an enterprise. They are a business running illegal business activities. Racketeering refers to unauthorized or illegal business activities. When they took that store from Crystal and her husband, that should have been considered right there unauthorized or illegal business activity, because they didn't pay them for that store as far as we know. Now, if they did, and my speculations were correct, and I don't think they are. I don't think this is the case, but if it were, then that would be a different story, right? If they actually did pay Crystal and her husband for the store, just to and tell them, look, maybe tell them, hey, take this money, go and keep silent. Maybe there was some type of secret NDA signed. Who knows? But I don't think that's the case. It's often run by crime groups or syndicates. Racketeering may also refer to unauthorized business being operated within a legitimate business for the purpose of extortion. Is this not what Joshua Johnson and Amnon and Brendan Best and Matt, is this not what they are doing right here? Are they not the ones actually racketeering? How does Reckless Ben, please tell me in the comments section, guys, how does Reckless Ben fit the profile of this? How does he fit in this profile? Please make this make sense to me, because everything we see, it's actually Bricks and Minifigs that fit the profile in this, that fit this profile, and they're reflecting it away from themselves. And I know this is not a part of the RCTU Biblical Edition. So I talk about God and I mention Jesus because I am a believer, and I'm not ashamed to say that I'm a follower of the Lord Jesus Christ, Yeshua HaMashiach. But I do try not to get overly religious on this side of my on this channel particularly. But when you understand spiritual warfare, and you understand how spiritual warfare works, and such, one of the signs of witchcraft is that of the spirit of witchcraft. Let me specify the spirit of witchcraft. Now, I'm not saying that anyone is practicing the actual religion of witchcraft. I'm saying that what I'm trying to say is that one of the signs of the spirit of witchcraft in operation is that they will always point the finger back in the other direction towards someone else to get the attention off of themselves. And the spirit of witchcraft will accuse someone else of the very thing that they themselves are doing. You see? And this is what, and this is, like I said earlier, this is what we see with the far left extreme Democrats. We see them constantly, they're always accusing the right and MAGA specifically, of everything that they themselves are actually guilty of. But to get the attention off of themselves and to slow down the exposure of their own guilt, they project onto those same exact guilts onto others. And this is what this is what it seems to me that Joshua Johnson and Brandon Best and Amnon and all of Bricks and Minifigs is doing. Is everything that they are guilty of themselves, there's a spirit of witchcraft here working in the spirit realm behind the scenes, pointing that is deflecting all of their own crimes onto someone else, in which case is Reckless Ben and Brian Menzel. And even Crystal and her husband. They tried to accuse Crystal and her husband even. Okay? But anybody deflect onto anybody and everyone to get the attention off of to get the attention away from themselves in the fact that they themselves are guilty of this. Okay? These illegal businesses are known as rackets, and running them can come with serious legal penalties. Now, I'm going to also do another video probably as soon as I get off from this one. As soon as I finish this one, I'm going to do one more, because there was another content creator that done a really, really good job herself digging into all of this. And I don't think she didn't pull up anything like this, but she done her own investigation as well and done a fantastic job. And I really want to go over that on this channel for you guys. And for everybody, everyone needs to see this case isn't just about Bricks and Minifigs and Reckless Ben. This is so much bigger, because this shows, like I said, the same tactics that they are using, Bricks and Minifigs is using, is the exact same tactics that the extreme left politicians use. It's the exact same tactics. They steal, they plunder, they destroy, they money laundering. I mean, just all of these things that the far left does. But then they deflect it all onto others and accuse others of being guilty of the very things that they themselves are actually guilty of. Okay? It's all the same type of tactics, and it's all the same type of spiritual warfare and the spirit of witchcraft. Right? Okay? So we can see here what racketeering actually is. Okay, let's finish reading here. These illegal businesses are known as rackets, and running them can come with serious legal penalties. Most often, a racket offers a solution for large sums of money to a problem the racket itself has created. For example, a racket may tell a business owner that for a sum of money, they can make sure the business is protected, when the only threat being posed to the business comes from the actual racket, from the racket, right? Do you see? You see how that works? Is that not, does that not sound like exactly what Bricks and Minifigs is guilty of? In other instances, though racketeering may refer to other illicit business practices, as was the case in one of Seattle's most famous racketeering cases, members of the RICO family, for example, were convicted of racketeering when their business practices involved charging exotic dancers just for the use of the stage. Okay. Now, again, I asked the question, how does Reckless Ben fit into any of this? How could they? I cannot, in my mind, it makes no sense. how a judge could even accept a case, a accusation of racketeering for someone like Reckless Ben. But okay, maybe the judge has no choice but to take the case if the accusations are there. But the burden of proof is on the prosecutor to prove that there's actual racketeering there, and I don't see how there is any proof here. The only thing that comes to my mind as to why Bricks and Minifigs would even deflect this on someone like Reckless Ben and Brian Menzel isn't so much to get them charged, but rather to cost them so much money and so much trouble that they're just shut, that it ruins their entire lives. I mean, that's the only thing I can imagine, because certainly this is going to be tossed out in court. It has to be completely tossed out in court, because I cannot imagine and see how. And again, if any of you are lawyers and know the law, please explain this to me. Make this make sense to me. How Reckless Ben could even remotely fit in the category of RICO and racketeering. Okay. Anyway, let's keep going. A more extensive view. We're gonna Congress declared a past this taking kind of. Okay, we're gonna go down here. Okay. A more expansive view holds that in order to be found guilty of violating the RICO statute, the government must prove beyond a reasonable doubt that an enterprise existed. Well, again, where's the enterprise? Where is the enterprise that Reckless Ben is involved with? Just saying. That the enterprise affected interstate commerce. Now, if there was an enterprise, could they consider Bricks and Minifigs' operation, their business, as part of interstate commerce, and what Reckless Ben done by exposing them and their theft, mind you, did interrupt or affect their interstate commerce? I mean, maybe, but where's the enterprise? That's all I'm saying. That the defendant was associated with or employed by the enterprise. You see how I keep saying enterprise? That the defendant engaged in a pattern of racketeering activity. And, again, we just read what racketeering is. Where is Reckless Ben's pattern of racketeering activity? He doesn't fit that definition, the legal definition of what that is. Okay? And that the defendant conducted or participated in the conduct of the enterprise through that pattern of racketeering activity through the commission of at least 2 acts of racketeering. Again, see, now you even there has to be at least 2 acts of racketeering before it can even be sent to as a RICO charge. And I don't see where anything Reckless Ben done even remotely relates to racketeering, much less RICO charges. Now, what is an enterprise? Let's check this out. An enterprise, okay, down here, an enterprise is defined as including any individual, partnership, corporation, association, or other legal entity. Where's Reckless Ben's legal entity that he's part of? And any union or group of individuals associated in fact, although not a legal entity. Again, where is the legal entity that Reckless Ben and Brian Menzel are part of or involved with? Where's that legal entity at? You see, I don't see that. The only legal entity here in this entire case is Bricks and Minifigs. And they're the ones actually performing illegal or unlawful activities. So how can this bricks and minifigs are the ones that fit this description. They fit this description absolutely to a T, guys. Just saying. Many courts have noted that Congress mandated a liberal construction of the RICO statute in order to effectuate its remedial purposes by holding that the term enterprise has an expansive statutory definition. Okay, let's look at the pattern of racketeering activity. Pattern of racketeering activity requires at least 2 acts of racketeering. I don't even see 1 act of racketeering with reckless spend. And there has to be at least 2 acts here, committed within 10 years of each other. Congress intended a fairly flexible concept of a pattern in mind. The government must show that the racketeering predicates are related and that they amount to or pose a threat to continued criminal activity. Let's read that one again. The government must show that the racketeering predicates are related and that they amount to or pose a threat of continued criminal activity. Again, where is reckless spend's criminal activity? And where's the enterprise? Participants, victims, or methods of commission or otherwise are interrelated by distinguishing characteristics and are not isolated events. Furthermore, the degree in which these factors establish a pattern may depend on the degree of proximity or any similarities in goals or methodology or the number of repetitions. Okay. Continuity refers to either a closed period of repeated conduct or to past conduct that by its nature projects into the future with a threat repetition. A party alleged of RICO violation may demonstrate continuity over a closed period by proving a series of related predicates extending over a substantial period of time. Predicate acts extending over a few weeks or months and threatening no future criminal conduct do not satisfy this requirement, as Congress was concerned with RICO in long-term criminal ID. Do we even need to read any more, guys? I ask again, how does reckless spend? Please comment to me in the comments section and tell me, how does reckless spend meet the criteria of RICO or even racketeering? How does that happen? How does that happen? I just don't see it. That's all I'm saying. I don't see it. Okay.
The owner reported overhearing conversations about possible stolen Legos.
And on top of that, Reckless Spin was even accused of stealing the Legos by the current franchise owner.
I stole the Legos?
There's that deflection.
What do you think
again
of the theory that it was Reckless Ben? He stole the Legos.
It's absurd. We didn't even know Reckless Ben. He had no interaction, no relation to us, no relation to...
Okay, now see, here's the he said, she said stuff, okay? They are saying outright, they don't know Reckless Ben. They never knew Reckless Ben. They did not know him. So again, the burden of proof is there to prove somehow that Reckless Ben and Crystal and her husband and Brian Menzel were all scheming together. Right? There's a burden of proof there that has to prove that they all knew one another and they all schemed together. But the biggest proof is, where's the enterprise that they're all involved with? What's the enterprise? There is no. Again, tell me, guys, if there's an enterprise, comment in the comment section, and I'll do another video and say, hey, I was wrong. They did have an enterprise. There was a full enterprise going. Okay. I mean, are you going to tell me that they would consider the lottery that Reckless Ben created as an enterprise? I mean, or oh, when he created the or what about when he done the what about whenever he done the prize? Whenever they done the prize, but I could, when when they sent in one of his other buddies, his other friends, to go into the store and go into Bricks and Minifigs as a YouTube as a content creator and do like $100 prize, right? Remember when they done that? Could they? Are they trying to count that as an enterprise? I mean, what? That's not an enterprise. That one-time lottery wasn't an enterprise. I mean, how can you even count those as enterprises? I don't see. Maybe they can. Maybe they can look at those and try to claim that that's proof of the enterprise, right? And thus tying it into a RICO, into RICO or racketeering. But I don't see how. I'm having a hard time seeing how this could even remotely hold up in court.
At the store. That doesn't hold any water.
Okay, I'm going to be honest. Apologies to the genius cops in Utah who play different.
We play differently here.
But I don't believe that Reckless Ben stole the Lego.
Obviously, they play different. He wasn't lying. The cop wasn't lying. They play different there. Why? Because they're all scum. They're scumbags. They take sides. They are biased, clearly, and they're all part of one big. They're actually part of one big enterprise. They're affiliated or helping out the enterprise of Bricks and Minifigs. that's the based on the evidence we have. I would allege that those cops are actually part of Bricks and Minifigs' real RICO events, and where the real RICO is taking place, and the real racketeering has been going.
Mostly because he couldn't. He just wasn't there that night, and I don't even think he knew about these Legos. But who does Ben suspect is holding the Legos, since he did this whole documentary series?
The guy who runs the entire company, Ammon McNeff, he personally came out to talk to us.
So what's going on?
So you guys are holding some of our Legos?
No, we're not.
You're not?
No.
Is that a lie?
No.
That's a lie. You did take the Legos.
No. So we have our attorneys have visited. Like again. So
our attorneys. No. I didn't do it. George. I didn't do it. Our attorneys and no. Boy.
Who's like
Brian Mansell.
Okay, and who's that?
He's a guy who had
He's playing dumb. Who was that? Like you don't know. As if you don't know.
He had like $200,000 worth of Legos in your guys' store?
Nope.
Never happened.
Never happened.
My name is Ammon McNeff. I am the CEO of the Bricks and Minifigs brand.
So my name's Matt McNeff. I'm the COO of Bricks and Minifigs.
The people you just saw are the McNeff brothers. They agreed to speak with me to try to clear their name. I asked them, do they have the Legos?
What I can tell you is that we don't have it. We've never had access to them.
It seems to kind of go missing. Parts of it seem to go missing on November 14th.
Well, and I guess that no, not.
And of course, okay, I'm gonna come in from a non-biased. Let's just let's play devil's advocate here, okay? What if Brandon Best took all those Legos that very night himself, and Amnon and Matt know absolutely nothing about it? Is that possible? That they didn't know anything about any of it? I think it's possible. However, I believe that is highly unlikely.
Not at all. I'm going to say, like that is not accurate at all. Because
so you think that the collection was in the store at the time or elsewhere?
Elsewhere. When you look at Mansell's own words that he reiterated to a podcast last year, he explicitly stated to another podcaster, the sets were moved off-site for security.
The collection will not be stored on site after hours for security reasons, and after Sunday, the sets will be available for purchase but stored elsewhere.
Now, one thing that's been a big subject of the Bricks and Minifigs.
Now that is a, that there, now that I could see how that may be an issue in court because of Brian's own words. But again, that does not rectify the idea of Reckless Ben being involved in any type of RICO, nor does that prove him as being any sort of Lego thief himself. I mean, we're supposed to be innocent until proven guilty, and the burden of proof is on the prosecutor.
Kind of story is, hey, there are these off-site locations. Can you address what that is? Is that true?
So the off-site location in the letter that that corporate is referring to is the original press release that we released when we were launching the collection. In that press release, because we had previous break-ins, I specifically included the location that after this weekend, those Legos would be stored off-site to deter any future theft.
Huh. That's interesting. Okay, she said those Legos would be stolen, and then she's stored off-site. Now, see, okay. Again, I'm not accusing Crystal and her husband, because as far as we can tell, they are not implicated in any crimes here. But, again, I do speculate the possibilities, and I have to keep an open mind, guys. We have got to keep an open mind in all of this. Was that a slip of the tongue from Crystal right there? Did she have a slip of the tongue? Is it possible that they took those Legos off site and those Legos just, air quotations here, coincidentally, were stolen? Because there was a slip of the tongue there, guys. I mean, she had a slip of the tongue. Now, it could have been complete coincidence and accidental. I mean, I slip up and I'll say something and have to correct myself and be like, man, I didn't mean to say it quite like that. That it came out wrong, because, your mind is you're thinking about a dozen different things. And that's probably what this is. But that did sound like a slip of the tongue. Let's listen to this one more time. Let's go back here. Let's listen one more time. Okay?
Elsewhere. When you look at Mansell's own words that he moved off-site for security.
Hang on.
One thing that's been a big subject of the Bricks and Minifigs kind of story is, hey, there are these off-site locations. Can you address what that is? Is that true?
So the off-site location in the letter that that corporate is referring to is the original press release that we released when we were launching the collection. In that press release, because we had previous break-ins.
Because they had previous break-ins.
I specifically included the location that after this weekend, those Legos would be stolen.
Those Legos would be stolen. Look at the facial expression. You see the facial expression here? Okay. Those Legos would be stolen. Oops. Now she's going to correct her words.
Would be stored off-site.
Be stored off-site. So, now she was probably thinking so the Legos would not be stolen. but she said so the Legos would be stolen. Oops. So there is a slip of the tongue there. That may or may not indicate that they're hiding something. Right? But however, I don't think that that's the case. I think that was just a simple misspeak.
To deter any future thefts, they were briefly stored off-site after that launch weekend while I bought safes for the back room, and then they were moved back into the store.
Okay, so for most of the time, the sets were in the store after y'all got the safes in.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, so Ammon McNeff suspects that...
Okay, so now we have a clear picture here. They did take the Legos off-site for a period of time to keep them safe because they had break-ins until they were able to purchase safes. And then the Legos were brought back into the store and put into safes. Got it.
That a lot of the Legos weren't there that night. And then on the other hand, we just heard from Crystal and Ben Gorman explaining the off-site story, saying that later they no longer used those off-site locations. But what do we really know about the Gormans? They are the former franchise owners after all. I mean, shouldn't we be suspicious of everyone? They're one of our key suspects. They were there the night we lost Brian's collection. They were the creators of the consignment deal after all.
Right.
And one group in particular is pointing their finger at them very hard. It's the McNeffs who say they were behind on payments.
We started getting calls from the landlord letting us know that Crystal was behind on the lease payments at the location.
Now see, okay, here's some more of those deflections again. Now, if you've at all been keeping up with this whole saga and really been digging into it, there was another, a totally different, unrelated store owner, or ex-Bricks and Minifigs store owner, who come out and told his story of what these same guys, mind you, what corporate and Joshua Johnson and Brandon Best done to him. And what they done to him was so dirty. They basically made a deal with him when he could not afford to keep paying the royalties due to the lockdowns and everything into around 2020. He couldn't afford to continue to pay the royalties, so he offered to say, "Hey, let me stay at the store. I'll hand the store back over to you. Let me just stay and manage the store until I can until I can build the store back up again, and then I'll purchase it back from you again." Right? And that's how it was supposed to work. But just like they done with Crystal and her husband, they stole the store from that man. They come down and eventually took that store. They confiscated all of the merchandise and shut the store down completely, leaving that man with nothing, taking everything from him. And not only did they take everything from him, but when they took over the store for a period of time, they left him owing thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. I believe, and quote me if I'm wrong, guys, but I believe the man testified that they left him with owing $500,000 worth of back rent to the property owner. $500,000 worth of back rent to the property owner after they took over the store. Right? So when they took over the store, they never paid they never paid the rent for the rental fees for that property that particular store was located on. And they never even had the rental agreement changed over into their own names or Bricks and Minifigs' corporate, under Bricks and Minifigs corporate. They never had it transferred even. They left it in that man's name and then did not pay and left him holding the bag and owing $500,000 to that property owner. So here we see he's accusing Crystal and her husband of not paying the property rental for the property rental, which is exactly what they done with this other store owner, leaving him owing the bag, holding the bag. So yeah, that's probably true. There probably was back owed, but looking at the pattern in this whole case, if they done anything in relation to the same thing they done with this other ex-store owner, they probably took over the store, left the rental agreement in Crystal and her husband's names, and they themselves did not transfer it over, and they did not pay the back property, the property rental for the property, thus making it seem like it was Crystal and her husband that were back on the property rent. You see that there's that deflection again, right? Now, I'm not saying that that's exactly what happened in this particular case, but looking at the pattern, it wouldn't surprise me if they didn't do the same thing to Crystal and her husband in this, and they're throwing Crystal and her husband under the bus when in fact they're the ones who did not pay the property taxes. I mean, I'm only speculating, of course, on this once more, but it's something that should be addressed.
We had also gotten a couple of notices from some of our vendor partners that bills had not been paid by the store, and so we felt pretty strongly that there was going to be a risk of her just, attempting to file bankruptcy, doing some of these other types of things which we've had franchisees do in the past, and that's...
And again, here's the deflection again. Oh, we were worried, we were concerned about the chances of her filing bankruptcy. Dude, you literally shut the store down completely and permanently to keep from paying Brian Manziel so that you didn't have to pay anything to them. You literally shut the store down, but yet you are accusing Crystal and her husband of the possibility that they might file bankruptcy and so they wouldn't have to pay anything. Are you freaking kidding me? You hypocritic piece of garbage. What a hypocrite. What an absolute hypocrite.
So that's why we sent him up there to take some video footage. So we needed to just be prepared if we needed to do a hostile takeover, which, can happen in franchising where a franchise owner just, kind of tries to steal inventory and do some different things that way.
Okay, so Bricks and Minifigs' story is that they were worried about the Gormans skipping town, so they sent Brandon Best as a secret shopper on October 24th, 2024. This is weeks before the takeover. Brandon takes a video of the store condition in preparation for this handover, but at this point, Brandon does not announce himself to Crystal Gorman. Later, though, on November 14th, once again, the same concern about the Gormans stealing or theft was expressed by the McNeffs.
Brandon was trying to make sure that they weren't taking things from the store, and so he was kind of trying to make sure that he wasn't putting things, like hiding things in the back, and that and while he was watching that, trying to make sure Ben wasn't grabbing stuff from the store and moving it or doing anything along those lines, because he just got a weird feeling about the whole transition.
She took at least one, if not more than one, cartfuls of things out to her car with her coat draped over it.
So yeah, the McNeffs say, look, they don't trust the Gormans. And they explained it, even further. They said, hey, there's some issues in her past.
I mean, is it possible that they could have taken some Legos? I mean, again, it is a heck of a coincidence that after Brian Manziel's Lego collection was in the store and gaining traction and attention, and suddenly her husband gets a business deal out of the country and they have to just up and leave. I mean, that's a that's an interesting coincidence there. And now you have Legos that are just missing and unaccounted for. $100,000 plus Legos, $100,000 plus worth of Legos, completely missing. Right after they decide to leave the store, or actually right after Brandon Best take over the store. But Brandon Best didn't come down and actually take over the store until Crystal and her husband announced that they were leaving to leave the country, that they were leaving the country, and they wanted to put the store up for sale. So there is some interesting coincidences here surrounding Crystal and her husband. I mean, if we're going to be fair about everything, right? But once more, I digress. I do not believe Crystal and her husband are guilty in this particular case. I think this is all deflection. Just saying.
She apparently has a retail theft and other criminal arrests on her record that we were not aware of.
When was that?
I don't know. This has been brought out by.
And again, see, he says, that she had criminal theft on her record that we were not aware of. I once again find it very hard to believe that they would allow someone in to run a franchise for their company or corporation without doing any background check on them and knowing their background and their criminal history. I find that very, very hard to swallow. Okay.
By several people online now.
Now look, that's a huge accusation to bring up, and so obviously I wanted to talk to the Gormans about it.
They're like, she has a history of some type of burglary, theft.
Oh my God. Wow.
Yeah, that's what they're
saying.
Yeah.
Oh. Nope. Well, yes.
Well,
you know about this.
Explain.
Yeah, when I was 19 years old.
How long ago is that?
I am 45 now. So this was in 1999. This, something that happened 25 years ago, has no reflection and no bearing on what happened in the last 2 years, my management of the store, what happened the night corporate seized the store.
So they're taking that. So they are taking an offense that she was guilty of back in 1999 and throwing that up today to deflect back onto Crystal.
It is another deflection. And
that's exactly what it is. It's a
infuriates me. You're going to try to publicly embarrass and shame me for somebody that was manipulated by local police departments when she was pregnant and 19 years old? Fuck you. That's my response to that. I am so sorry. You're going to have to blur. And
now I would like to know what happened in that case, because she says here that she was manipulated by local police officers when she was only 19 years old. So inquiring minds would like to know what happened at that time. How was she manipulated by police officers? What went down there? I would really like to know that.
Cut a lot of this, but that pisses me off. I own what I have done. I own the mistakes that I have made. You cannot intimidate and bully me into backing down when I know that legally and morally I am in the right and I have the evidence to back it up.
Wow, this is getting kind of nasty and personal at this point, and I just wanted to give people kind of their side. But at every turn, I hope you understand, I'm getting contradictory stories. Down to if
anyway, we're not going to go any farther into this because, we're going to wind up with a 3-hour video if we do. But the main purpose that I was getting at here on this really is to point out the RICO accusations against Reckless Ben and Brian Menzel and Crystal and her husband, really, but mostly Reckless Ben and Brian Menzel, the racketeering and RICO charges that are being filed, that have been filed against them, because from everything, all the evidence that we can see, at least publicly, points to the fact that it's actually Amnon and his brother and Brandon Best and Joshua Johnson who were actually guilty of RICO. I mean, period, bottom line. And then, I mean, especially when you add the fact that the ex-store owner in a completely different state testified himself to what they done to him and the scandal they pulled with him. All of that lines right up in perfectly in line with racketeering and RICO. Okay? It goes right in line with that. And then you also add the fact that they're suing their own dad. Okay, well, we're not going to get into that right now, because on our next video, we're going to go in, I'm going to play something else for you guys, and we're going to go over something else that another absolutely outstanding creator, investigator, private individual journalist has uncovered. We're going to get into that on the next video. So stay tuned for that, man. And for now, we're gonna stop this video right here for the time being, and pick me up on the next video, because guys, this is getting really good. And okay, now this is one of those videos I definitely say like, share, and subscribe. Like, share, and subscribe, but most definitely share this video. Share. I cannot stress enough. Please share this video. Share it with everyone, man. People need to be aware of this. We want to see. I would like to see this case get all the way as far. I want to see Kash Patel get a hold of this. I want to see Vice President J.D. Vance get a hold of it. I want to see our current Attorney General look into this case. I would really, I mean, because with all the fraud that's being investigated right now across the country, mostly they've been, in the political realm, they've been, exposing all of the fraud as far as like the illegal votes, all the voter fraud, and they've been exposing all the fraud from the from illegals that come into the country. The Somali situation in Minnesota, and all the fraud taking place there, all the frauds that's going on in California, with Social Security, and with these fictitious schools or what have you, and I mean all the different frauds, different fraud cases that have been taking place that have been costing taxpayer dollars. And I get why because those directly affect the taxpayers, where a case like this, even as big as it is and as insane as it is, doesn't necessarily affect taxpayers as a whole. But it is really a huge fraud situation here. And to me, in my mind, for them to investigate a fraud case to this type of extent of fraud and uncover this, what else could this lead to uncovering? Maybe not just with bricks and minifigs, but if we could get a case going, and if they could say, like, if Kash Patel or if our Attorney General, get involved with this case, and we take down these corporate fraudsters here, this case could be used as an example for other fraud cases across the country. So anyway, that's all I've got to say for today. Guys, Reality Check, Truth Unveiled. We'll see you on the next one. I'm out.